We are back with another week's rookie recap video, and some guys are speeding up, some guys are slowing down, and there's a couple of comparisons here that I think will surprise with their accuracy. So, all of this considered, if you like or appreciate this type of analysis, which I don't think anybody else is doing this sort of thing, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping content daily. So consider hitting the subscribe button to stick around for more. Let's jump into it. Carson Steel this past week had 46 snaps, which puts him up to 65 snaps on the season of offense and 25 special teams snaps. He played 0 special teams this week, almost undoubtedly in a bid to keep him from getting injured. While on the field, he had a pretty good day for himself, 17 carries, 7.2 yards per carry, had 2 targets in the passing game, adding 1 reception for 2 yards. Nothing really all that compelling with Carson Steel as a receiving threat. I don't think that will ever be his forte, but at the same time, I think there would have been a lot of people who said that about Samaje Perine when he was coming out of college as well. But the threat of him being able to catch is a big deal. 2 targets, 1 reception. That he had that reception does mean something. It means that you have to allocate resources towards covering Carson Steel when he is on the field. Even if it is that he is staying back to pass block, you have to dedicate someone to making sure he's back there to pass block, because that's a big guy to have running wild all over your defensive backfield. The 17 carries and 72 yards were very hard-fought yards. I believe they were exclusively between the tackles. I saw someone did a graphic on this on Twitter/X. I believe his runs were exclusively between the tackles. So it will be interesting in the next few weeks to see if he does branch out to anything outside of the tackle, etc. But on the season right now, that means that Carson Steel has 26 carries for 99 yards, approaching the 4-yard per carry mark, which is a decent average for, not everybody's going to be Jamal Charles, right? But those 2 targets, 1 reception, and 2 yards are his only receptions for the season. But here's where it gets interesting. If we flash back to Isaiah Pacheco's rookie season, remember, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the back ahead of him. Pacheco was not the starter and would not assume starting duties for quite some time, but he had 26 snaps, 17 carries, 77 yards, and a touchdown through the first 3 games of his rookie season, meaning that through the same amount of games, Carson Steel has 9 more carries, 22 more yards, but is lacking the touchdown. That is an interesting stat. Now, again, who knows what would have been had Clyde Edwards-Helaire maintained his ownership of the starting position. Who knows what would have happened in Carson Steele's rookie season had Isaiah Pacheco not been injured. But to have found, I don't think anyone would have called heading into this season that Carson Steel would be statistically ahead of where it was that Isaiah Pacheco was in his rookie season. I don't, again, know exactly how much you can take from this because of the circumstance involved, but it does look like Carson Steel is a legitimate NFL running back. The Chiefs have had no real trouble finding legitimate NFL running backs. They have had problems finding legitimate NFL running backs that can make a difference on the football field. Carson Steel, in my opinion, has the ability to ascend to that level. I don't think he's there right now, but I think he could be. I think he is someone that has definitive definitive potential towards getting better. He does learn very quickly, it seems. He is a high effort guy, and he's blocking at a decent level. He did miss a couple blitzers in this past week against the Falcons, but a decent level for a rookie, decent enough that Andy Reid trusts having him out there. So, moving on to Xavier Worthy. He played 37 snaps, which gives him a total of 115 snaps on the season. Again, who knows what this would look like had Hollywood Brown not been injured, but he was injured. And in this week 3 matchup, Xavier Worthy had 4 targets, providing 2 receptions, 17 yards. He also had 3 carries for 13 yards. I have to admit, I blanked on a few of the stats the past couple weeks. I do not remember all of these carries for Xavier Worthy. I do not remember Jared Wiley's reception from last week, but we will get there in a moment. On the season, this puts Xavier Worthy at 11 targets for 6 receptions, 81 yards, and a touchdown. 5 carries, 39 yards, and a touchdown. I would not have guessed, and this goes for sort of this rookie class in general, I would not have guessed the week 3 matchup against the Falcons to have been the week and game and matchup where everyone kind of took a step back except for Carson Steel. I thought that this would have been a relatively easier game than either the Bengals or the Ravens, and with that being the case, you would edge your rookies' stats, your rookies' snap counts, up at least slightly. Was not the case. The production for Xavier Worthy, 4 targets and 2 receptions, probably kind of what you're going to end up seeing, a 50% catch rate for someone who is a deep threat like Xavier Worthy. I don't think that this necessarily means he is behind any type of curve here, but if we're looking at things holistically, I've missed a snap, 150. So Rashee Rice last season, through 3 games, had 71 snaps. Xavier Worthy has 115. He is on the field substantially more through 3 games. However, he only has 11 targets where Rashee Rice had 14. Now, I talked about this a little bit last week, and I think it holds true through this week. Part of that is that Xavier Worthy is a larger part of the actual offense and the mechanics of the actual offense. Xavier Worthy has to be on the field, whether he's being targeted or not, in order to take the top off of the defense. It makes everything happen easier on the underneath stuff. That was not the case for Rashee Rice in his rookie season. Rashee Rice, during his rookie campaign, was just a guy at the beginning of the season who was rotating through reps. Rice at this point had 10 receptions compared to Xavier Worthy's 6. He had 108 yards compared to Worthy's 81, and he had no touchdowns compared to Xavier Worthy's touchdowns. 1 touchdown receiving. I will have to go back and look. I did not check whether or not Rashee Rice had carried the ball at all through the first 3 games of his rookie season. I do not think that he had. I don't think he was really a rush. Well, if he did, it would have more than likely been a backwards pass from Patrick Mahomes, a target behind the line of scrimmage, behind where Patrick Mahomes had been. That would, I think, have been his only rushes, carries, rushing attempts through his rookie season through 3 games. But I will, I promise, go back and try to keep a better eye on that. Now, Xavier Worthy having this type of productivity through 3 games when he came out of the gates so strong. What are we to take of that? I'm not sure, really, anything. I think actually, perhaps paradoxically, it was kind of reassuring to see Xavier Worthy have something of a pedestrian game. The big worry with receivers like Xavier Worthy is that they are boom or bust, that they will have that Ravens game or nothing at all. And no, 2 receptions for 17 yards isn't a whole lot. 3 carries for 13 yards isn't a whole lot. Still, you're looking at 30 yards, while and whereas you would think, based on the sort of commentary around Xavier Worthy, and frankly, the type of thing that normally ends up happening to Xavier Worthy type players in the NFL, it is boom or bust. This was a pedestrian game. The fact that he can have pedestrian games where he's getting 30 yards on 5 touches is kind of reassuring. Think of Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney is setting a Super Bowl record for punt return yards, longest punt return in a Super Bowl, or he's just batting the ball in the air haphazardly and letting that pass get returned for a pick six. That's kind of the boom or bust that the athletic profile of an Xavier Worthy often lends itself to. Moving on to Jared Wiley, one of my sort of sleepers coming into the season. It's a deep sleep, as it seems. Had 16 offensive snaps, no special team snaps at all through this point in the season, which may be the most troubling part here. To not have any special team snaps, I don't know what that means, because he's certainly not contributing on offense. He had 0 statistical impact in week 3. Through 3 games, he has only 1 target, 1 reception, and 7 yards. But we've been here before. We've been here before with Noah Gray. Back in Noah Gray's rookie season of 2021, through 3 games, he had but 18 snaps, a cool 21 snaps fewer than Jared Wiley. Essentially, he had in his entire first 3 games, Jared Wiley's Falcons output of 16 snaps, right? Through 3 games, Noah Gray had played just 2 more snaps than Jared Wiley played against the Falcons. Through those same 3 games in 2021, Noah Gray had 1 target, 1 reception, and 5 yards, nearly identical to the 1 target, 1 reception, and 7 yards enjoyed thus far by Jared Wiley. So, we know what Noah Gray has become. He has become a dependable part of this offense, a part of this offense that is not necessarily replaceable. Lord knows we've seen the Chiefs try. We've seen the Chiefs bring through no shortage of tight ends through this offense, but no one has managed to topple Noah Gray from his spot at the number 2 tight end position. Now, here is the absolute humdinger, right? The absolute humdingers of this game. Kingsley Mataya, 2 snaps, 3 special team snaps, giving him on the season 110 snaps and 12 special team snaps. I am not willing to say that this is troubling. The Kansas City Chiefs found themselves in a dogfight the entire livelong Sunday evening. Maybe it was the case that they had their hot hand in Wanya Morris on the field, who did an okay job. I won't say he did a bang-up job, but he was all right. He was serviceable. He was decent. And when you're in that dogfight, you don't want to take the risk of switching out your starting offensive lineman. The plan, ostensibly from Andy Reid, as he had communicated before the game, I believe it was Andy Reid. I don't think it was Andy Heck. I don't think that it was Matt Nagy. I think it was Andy Reid who said the plan was that both of them would play. Not a lot. Wanya Morris would have had, I believe the Kansas City Chiefs had 74 offensive snaps. Wanya Morris played all 74. Kingsley Mataya would have been supplemental to the line at that point. Hopefully he gets his own receiving touchdown this season. That would be pretty sick. But to have him off of the field for an entire week, sometimes something like this is used as a slap in the face to a guy. Hey, you got to wake up. The stakes are real at the NFL level. Maybe it's the fact that they are Wanya Morris and Kingsley Mataya, very close in competition, very close in their effectiveness, and the Kansas City Chiefs are going with the experienced guy because just last week, Kingsley had some struggles. Maybe that is the case. I'm willing to accept it at this point. I do think that Kingsley flashes more often than does Wanya Morris. And so I do think that he has a higher ceiling than Wanya Morris, but this is what we're seeing right now. Wanya Morris, during his rookie season, I think played something like 340 snaps total during the entire season. So Kingsley Mataya is well ahead of the pace of Wanya Morris at this point. And I think that that is the closest sort of guy to really compare Kingsley Mataya to. He's playing offensive tackle, right? You can compare him to Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, both of whom started every game of their rookie seasons, but I don't see the utility there as far as drawing comparisons for a video like this. And this is the maybe most confusing one. Jaden Hicks, who I think sometimes I refer to as Jared Hicks, and if that is the case, I apologize. Every time I type his name in a document, I type Jared Hicks. I have no idea why. But Jaden Hicks had 3 snaps and 18 special teams snaps, giving him 8 snaps on the season. 8 snaps on the season to go with his 61 special team snaps. However, Jaden Hicks contributed 2 tackles. 2 tackles in 3 snaps. 3 snaps, 2 tackles. If he played 70 snaps, he would have made 62 tackles. Put him on the field. That's obviously that math doesn't quite math, but it is interesting to look at. And when we look a little bit closer on the season, he has 8 snaps, 3 tackles. If we go back to Chamari Connor's rookie season just last year, through 3 games, Chamari Connor had played only 24 snaps and made only 2 tackles. Jaden Hicks is affecting the play by making the stop nearly 50% of the time that he's on the field. I think that warrants a little bit more playing time. And if we are willing to be honest with each other, there's been some struggles on the defense. I don't know how well Reed is playing. It seemed he struggled last week to me. I had comments corroborating that he had struggled the entire season. You have 2 young gun safeties in Chamari Connor, who has been the absolute star of the defense to this point in the season, and Jaden Hicks, who was the absolute star of this defense in the preseason and a large part of training camp. So for Justin Reed and Brian Cook to be playing the way they're playing, it may only be a matter of time. Brian Cook had 2 very blatant penalties that just didn't get called. And if they did, the Falcons would have had a 1st and goal at the 1 for his pass interference play, and I believe it was the Ray McLeod run down the sideline where Brian Cook just snatched his face mask. Yeah, I mean, egregiously. This wasn't an almost. This wasn't a grazed at the bars. This was an absolute yank of that man's face mask. So Brian Cook is still on a rookie contract. Obviously, Brian Cook is in his third season. Justin Reed is a very expensive player for this defense. Justin Reed, a very experienced player for this defense. Justin Reed, who had a great season last year. Now, remember, he missed a lot of time in the preseason. It is possible that what we're looking at is the same thing that we looked at in the first two games with Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton did not have his legs under him. Nick Bolton did not have his wits about him. Nick Bolton did not have his tackling shoulder pads strapped up. Those first 2 weeks, we saw him reemerge as Hit Stick Nick this past weekend. Maybe that is in the cards for Justin Reed. Maybe I am wrong on my assessment of Justin Reed, but he appeared to be absolutely ghastly against the Falcons in my estimation. Just a couple of other notes. I'll jump down to CJ Hansen and Ethan Driscoll first. They were both inactive. They have been inactive every week this year. Is what it is. Those are guys that are at the bottom end of the roster. I don't see anything to worry about there. I don't think anyone really had them making. Honestly, I wasn't sure either of them would make the team this season. I thought that they would both be practice squad players, but they did make the team. They end up being inactive. Christian Roland Wallace had 13 special teams snaps. This gives him 44 special team snaps on the season. Hunter Nourzad played 5 special team snaps, giving him 14 special team snaps on the season. These players do not figure, in my estimation, to see much, if any, actual playing time this season, save for the Week 18 bye week, if it is a bye week this season. And we have a little bit of confirmation that it might be a Week 18 bye week in the fact that there are very few undefeated teams through just 3 weeks. You have the Bengals going winless through 3 weeks. The Kansas City Chiefs are one of those undefeated teams. I do not believe the Steelers are going to be all that large a threat to stay undefeated for too long, to rack up all that many wins. So it could be that the Chiefs are in position one more time to have that bye week in Week 18, preparing for the playoffs. And I think that there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rookies that are on the active roster. I would estimate that we would see all of them except for Xavier Worthy should that Week 18, game be a toss-up. Should the Kansas City Chiefs not have to win Week 18, I believe we would see all of these players except for Xavier Worthy, should all of them be healthy. Now, Christian Roland Wallace, Hunter Nourzad. Christian Roland Wallace is an absolute boon to the roster. Another UDFA defensive back picked up by Brett Veach, who has found a way to keep himself on the active roster for the Chiefs. This is basically the Deon Bush position. Does that mean he won't see defensive reps if he plays out his entire 3-year UDFA contract? No, I don't think that at all. I think that if the Chiefs, now Deon Bush made a big play in the playoffs last year, I think that the Chiefs would rather have someone that has utility on their defense that is kept for their special teams. Another way to say this, I think they wish Deon Bush would have been a more dependable defensive player and he would have gotten the reps. I do not believe the other way around, that he was kept around specifically for special teams. I think that he was kept because of his special teams play, but I don't think that they would have held it against him had he been a plus defender as well. So if Christian Roland Wallace is able to improve a couple things, because he did flash in the preseason a little bit, I do think that he will be a guy that does contribute on regular teams as well. Hunter Nourzad, I think, is probably one of those guys that you were grooming to be the Nick Allegretti of the future. He's someone that you probably want to have the opportunity to work into the starting lineup should Joe Thuney leave, retire, get cut, whatever it is that would happen with one of those offensive guard spots, should Trey Smith find himself not re-signing with the Kansas City Chiefs, whatever it is there, I think that Hunter Nourzad is someone that is the Chiefs coaching staff hopes can step into one of those roles, even though Creed Humphrey plays center and has re-signed, and center was the position that Hunter Nourzad was most known for at the college level. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping content every single day, and I hope to have you back for the next one.